we're going to custom and install John the Ripper on Kali Linux. Now, Kali does come with John by default. If you type in John, you'll notice that it's available by default, but this version is not custom compiled for the CPU and memory available and things like that. So it's going to have a tendency to run anywhere from 2 to 5 times slower than if you install the latest and greatest build. Also, you'll notice the default version doesn't support quite as many formats as the custom version with all the extra features added in. Additionally, John cannot work on some formats unless it has some libraries to help it out, and those aren't installed by default. So let's work through all of those problems. First off, we'll just change directories into opt. This is where we're going to install the software, and we'll do an apt-get update to make sure that we have the latest information about the repositories that are available. Then we'll get started with installing dependencies. We're going to refer to these notes because some of these commands are quite difficult to type in, and be nice to just pull them from over here in our cheat sheet. What I've basically done here is I've put together a list of the various libraries and concatenated them into a single command. You'll find references to these different libraries on different sites. So far, I haven't really found an instruction document that mentions all the libraries simultaneously in the same documentation, but if you read through a lot of different documents on different sites that have some really nice docs, what you'll find is this is kind of all of the libraries put together. So let's go over here and we'll paste these in. And we'll go ahead and get those installed, accept the default yes. And while that's waiting, we can go ahead and take a look at the next command. So the next one is going to be to install some more prerequisites. Well, the reason I separated these out is these are prerequisites for the RexGen. And so they're not directly prerequisites for the John the Ripper itself, but for one of the libraries that we're going to provide to John the Ripper so it can have better cracking abilities. Right, so let's go ahead and install those prerequisites the same way. And it shouldn't take as long because there's just a few of them. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the RexGen software, and that actually can't be done with apt-get as far as I know. We're going to clone the project off of GitHub whenever the installation of the prereqs is done. We're already in the opt directory, if you take note of that. So when we clone it, it'll be cloned into the opt directory. There'll be a new folder called RexGen. We're going to change into that folder. And if we list the contents, there's an install script inside, and we're going to run that. And then this is going to get compiled and built, linked. And then what we're going to end up doing is doing this little command here called ld-config. We need to wait until the process is complete. Do the ld-config. And all of this is per the instructions on the RexGen site. So I just took it right from there. Now let's go ahead and download John the Ripper. So we'll get it off of the official repository. Done all the things we need to do there. Let's go ahead and change up to our opt directory, and we'll go ahead and download and install John right from the repository. So this download process, depending on your internet speed, can take a while to do. There's a lot of files that have to be downloaded. If you have a good connection, though, shouldn't take more than around 30 seconds. And then we're going to follow these steps to do the configuration, and then the compilation and testing. So to start with, let's do the configuration first. And the configuration can be found in the source directory. So first, let's change into the projects directory and then to src source directory. And then we'll go ahead and run the configure command in this directory here. And we want to add one option. So let's enable MPI support. So we'll add that -- enable -MPI. This configure is going to check the various libraries and compilers and other options that are available in our operating system. Of course, we took the time to download a lot of those extra libraries that can add additional features to John. So what happens is we notice that we now have support for a lot of these optional modes that by default we wouldn't otherwise have support for. And now that that's done, we can go ahead and run the make command to compile the code. And John actually tells you what command to run, but we've also got it in our note sheet over here if you want to take a look at that. When the compilation process gets done, we're going to move over into the run directory and then test John to make sure that everything's working. Again, depending on resources, CPU, memory, other resources, it's going to depend on how long this process takes. We're not actually downloading anything at this point, but it still takes a lot of CPU and other resources to compile the code. And there we have it. The compilation process is complete. Let's move up one directory and then over into the run directory where the John binary is located. And we'll go ahead and we'll type in John test. And we'll see that it starts to do benchmarking. So let's go ahead and stop that there. Let's notice that the speeds for the first test, descript, is running at about 18,000 K. So now let's go back to the original John, the one that's still installed on the system that comes by default with Kali Linux. And let's run the test for it just for that very first one. And we'll stop the test. So notice here that we run the John here locally, the one that we compiled, we're running about 18,000. That's 18,000 K, so that's 18,000 about 18 million. And with the default version, we're running right at about 4. So see, there's a pretty big difference potentially between the speed of a custom installed John with the default version of John, plus also we added all those extra libraries in, and it's going to give us a lot of extra cracking formats and other features that we wouldn't have otherwise. So now you can go install a copy of John for yourself and greatly improve your password auditing experience.